We made it! We made it to the end, the finale of Bachelor in Paradise. Now, in this video, one of my most important videos on the entire season, I'm going to summarize all the lessons that we learned, how to apply this to your own relationships. But I have someone special I'm going to give what I call my accountability rose to because I thought they did a really nice job on the reunion. And let's go over the top stories. Make sure you subscribe to my channel below. Welcome to Reality TV Therapy with me, Dr. Diane. Welcome back. I want to know if you saw my last reel, because in this reel, I am going over 3 really important lessons that I think apply to Bachelor in Paradise in particular, but apply to just dating and relationships in general. Number 1, are you emotionally ready? We're going to talk a lot about that because that was a big theme. You're a boy, you're not ready, I'm ready, you're not. Huge topic. Number 2, what life stage are you at? Because that was another huge theme. If I'm 24 and you're 33 and I'm at the phase in my life where I'm just getting started, but you're ready to settle down, we're going to have issues, right? And number 3, are we a fit? Because this is one of the most important things for your own relationship and watching on TV. Where are we emotionally? Are we both ready? Have we done our work? 2, are we at the same stage in life where we want the same things? And how do we fit in terms of our communication? Do we meet each other's needs? Do we know how to handle each other during stress? All of those things are super important. So no wonder we don't have more couples, because all those 3 things, check, 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 need to come together. All right, bear these 3 things in mind as we talk about each of these couples, because it helps me to kind of categorize who I see where. Remember, none of this is who do I like more than any other or what couples do I really think are going to make it in the end. It's about looking for little glimmers of relationship hope and how we can tie this all together. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to go in order of kind of the reunion. And 1, we had Kate and Logan, because this was a hot topic. Now, Kate on her Instagram recently apologized to Logan and to her followers for being classist. I appreciate that word, meaning that I like nice things and I'm calling out somebody else who doesn't like the same nice things. And I appreciated that. Now, is Kate sincere? I don't know. I'm going to take her at face value. Some people say that she's a bit of an actress. I don't know. But what happened on the actual reunion, though, was that Kate didn't say exactly that. She said, "I'm sorry, Logan, that you heard a private conversation that you weren't meant to hear." And Logan has a response to that. But to me, this just didn't hit the mark, right? It was like, I wish she had just said, "I'm sorry I hurt you. I watched back and that was pretty brutal of me. And we are just at different phases." But she still doubled down on saying that I'm ready and you're not. And when we come back to this to me is more like a life stage readiness, my topic number 2 that I mentioned, because Kate is at a different phase in her life, and that's perfectly fine, right? She's 33, sister in Christ. She knows what she wants. She wants someone who is at a certain level, and Logan's just not there. I kind of appreciated Logan's clapback. Hey, I'm, working for myself. I started from scratch and trying to make my videos. I'm proud of myself. But he also made a really good point that I sort of wished I did hear this, because you were saying these things behind the camera. And if you had just told me and come clean with me, hey, we're at 2 different phases in our life, which she could have easily said, then he could have been allowed to pursue someone else more at his stage of life, someone who's more young and fun, and maybe we're going to date for 3 years and we're going to build this together. So to me, that would have been a better level of accountability with Kate and Logan, where we didn't have to put Logan down for driving an orange Honda, really a Nissan, and all of that to me just would have made better sense. So the lesson to learn between Kate and Logan is it's okay to claim what you want, but it's really not okay to tell someone that they're not ready, because I get to determine whether I'm ready or not. If I think I'm emotionally ready and I want a girlfriend because I'm lonely or for whatever reason because I've fallen in love with you, for you to tell me that I'm not ready is really more about we're not at the same life stage. What do you think of that? Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. I just thought this was a mismatch. All right, number 2. Let's talk about Eliza and Rodney. Now, I have had issues with this from the beginning, that Eliza, and I've said this in 2 other videos, has not taken any accountability for her part whatsoever. She finally did get there in the reunion, and she said, I'm sorry to make you not feel good enough. Love that. That was a highlight. That was a good moment. Good, Eliza. But prior to that, the doubling down of, I wanted you to tell me not to go, and finally, here's Rodney. But didn't I say that? Or was that not enough? I said that I didn't want you to go, Eliza, but maybe that's not enough. And that was really good on Rodney. I'm glad he got a chance, because he is saying, I was ready, right? I was emotionally ready. I'm at the phase of my life where I do want a partner. I want a fiance. I came here for that. I was interested in you. And he had nothing but lovely things to say to her. And yet, what happened for poor Rodney is that he really did feel shame about this. Now, I wish he hadn't, like he took that all very personally, because he really got very vulnerable and let everybody know what his intentions were, to Eliza, to everyone else, that he wanted to get engaged, to propose to her, and he felt like he had the rug pulled out from under her. Not only, this is Justin, his friend, but he felt like, to give me the rose and then take it away. So what lesson can we learn from this? Well, the lesson is that trust is so easy to break and almost impossible to repair. Let me repeat that. Trust is easy to break and almost impossible to repair, especially at the beginning. And the problem here is that Rodney has lost trust for Eliza because she flip-flops so much. It's okay to flip-flop, but it's going to there are going to be consequences to your flip-flopping. And what I loved is that Rodney said, I'm getting better in my healing. I'm working on myself. Good for you, Rodney. Love that for you. And Eliza does maybe still has feelings for Rodney, but as we know, and I've said this previously, I think she got so wrapped up into the drama of these 2 men liking her that she wasn't protecting either one of them. And that's the consequence, right? When you don't protect that person and you don't build trust, then neither one of those is going to work. But I'm really glad Rodney had that moment. Okay, number 3. Let's talk about Genevieve and Aaron. I actually loved the snippet when Genevieve says, I'm going to need so much therapy after this. Love that, because I'm pro-therapy. That's why I'm doing this. I'm trying to help you in your own lives with therapy. And so to acknowledge that, I thought was really great on Genevieve. Now, what I really loved, and they show their whole journey and how lovely they were and how in love they were. We saw all of that. We saw the connection. We saw the chemistry. And at one point I said, these are 2 similar people and that might attract. But the problem is when you have fire and fire, which is kind of what I saw, a lot of anxious energy in both of them, you get too much fire and there's no one calming that down. And that was really the problem. But what I loved is on the reunion, because reunions for me are an accountability and a redemption arc, where if I can take personal accountability for what I've done, I can actually not just redeem myself to the public, but I can learn and I can grow. And that's the whole point. And I've heard from so many people on the show that they have learned and they have grown. It doesn't happen immediately though. It takes reflection. It takes sitting back, watching, thinking through what was happening versus what I could have done differently. And this is what gives me hope for Genevieve, because she does. She says, I made mistakes. Boom. Just like that. I was emotionally reactive. And that was very succinct. Good word choice. She said, she gave context. And she said, I'm not blaming you, but I was responding to you. And that's why I was emotionally reactive. And I could have been better during those tough times. That's it. That to me was like the perfect amount of this is what was going on for me. And because she did that really well, then Aaron was able to soften. And he said, I was prideful. I was not sensitive to your emotions. I'm watching it back thinking, ooh, I didn't like that. I could have been better. You deserve better. That really was a moment. And then you see Genevieve gets choked up, right? She's crying and Aaron's like checking with her. And she's like, that's more than I even expected. And I thought, oh, girl, expect more. But I liked that because I'm not choosing sides about are you Genevieve or Aaron. They're clearly not a fit. And then, of course, there's this whole other story about does Aaron have some other relationship going on at home? Did we know about that reunion? I want to leave that there. Clearly there was chemistry, but we learn chemistry isn't enough. So for these two people, they might have been at the right phases in life and wanted the same things, but emotionally the fit, point number 3 that I made about fit, just wasn't there because no one was the anchor. And they both admitted that. Aaron admitted that he needed someone more solid who wouldn't leave during stress. And Genevieve admits that she needed someone who was going to be not so goofy, kind of so silly. I just think that was a mismatch. So I think they both needed more emotional consistency. Again, fit was not here. Okay, let's talk about Tyler and Brittany. What happened there? Tyler and Brittany, for me, were late arrivals, right? Meaning that, well, Brittany was there from the beginning, but Tyler came in late. And certainly there was a lot of chemistry. And I really have liked Brittany all season, that she seems to have good boundaries. She didn't just go for anyone. She really has a strong sense of self. Now, at the reunion, and she even said herself in her Instagram, we don't get to see everything, right? There was so much that was filmed here that we just didn't get to see. I would have wanted for a longer reunion. I could have watched this for 3 hours because there were so many stories that I felt like were just cut off. I don't know what you thought. But Brittany and Tyler, because he comes out first and he's been the one who's been the more rejected one, we're going to listen to him. That he says, she went to Italy and, FaceTimes me from there. And now Brittany's coming in needing to defend herself. And I felt like Tyler was a little bit more prepared than Brittany was. But what I did like about what Brittany said is that we just didn't have good communication during the hard times. And for me, this is back to fit. That they needed, and actually Jesse asked one good question, could anything have changed this? And they both admitted that they were not good at talking about that. So here's Brittany telling Tyler, I love you, I love you. He's like, oh my gosh, you love me, that's great. But she's omitting some important things. And sometimes people do this, right? They do it because otherwise I'll feel mean. And she said that. If I said anything else, I didn't want to hurt you. Brittany had good intentions with Tyler. But what is she supposed to say? And I don't know if it was a lifestyle fit, to be honest. My point number 2. Tyler is in New Jersey, works at the at the fair, at the game. Pretty sure that's what he does. It looks like he also does personal training. Brittany is a model in Chicago. Maybe she's a little bit more worldly. Maybe she expects somebody further along. So to me, it felt like a whole sub-story of things we weren't talking about. And maybe Brittany thinks, well, I can't get him there. Kind of like Kate and Logan. Asking you for more isn't going to help you get there. you're not there and you need more time to get there. And I don't know if I'm ready and you're not, then how are we going to meld that? So I just thought that this was not a fit. Tyler is adorable. I think he's emotionally available and could really be a good partner. We saw that with Rachel and now with Brittany. But I just wonder if he needs to be a little bit further along to have more confidence in himself to then really seal the deal. And then the other thing, talk about fit. Brittany was very clear that I told him this isn't working for me. I need a break. And then he texted me and then pinged me and Snapchatted me and DM'd me. And she was saying, ooh, I'm flooded. So I also wondered if Tyler really does also have, again, a more anxious presentation, and that was just too flooding to Brittany. She needs somebody more on the cool part. So to me, that was also an issue with emotional kind of fit. What do we need? And that was a mismatch. Okay, now let's get to the biggest, and I'll get to the positive ones, but let's get to the biggest story of the night, which was really Johnny and Victoria. This couple, in my estimation, should have never gotten engaged. Why? Because Johnny didn't want to. He said himself, sadly, he said, when I look in the mirror, I don't like what I see. I don't feel good about myself. He also reflected back on all his previous relationships. They all haven't worked. People have ghosted him, left him with no explanation. But what's lacking for me is an awareness of like putting that together. And Johnny, in all honesty, he might be a great friend. All the people love him. Johnny, great. He might be a great friend, but is he really a great partner? And he, to me, feels pretty shut down. He doesn't initiate a lot, if you notice. He's kind of responding to Victoria all the time. She's got the energy. Oh, baby. Hey, how are you? How do you feel? And he just seems responding to her. We saw that after their one-on-one. She's saying, love you, baby. And he's like, yeah, love you. Don't change my mind. And I thought, ooh, ouch. She needs more from him emotionally than he can give her. So I think, number one, is Johnny emotionally ready? Is he emotionally available? Now, only he can decide if he's ready or not. But to me, given what poor self-esteem he has, how little he thinks about himself, the lack of kind of confidence in relationships, this is going to be a theme in other relationships. And then point two, is he really ready for what Victoria wants? She's made no bones about it. She wants to get married, to have kids. She expects a certain kind of lifestyle. And so for me, what was happening is Johnny was getting dragged by the story, by the theme, and I just thought this is not going to end well. Okay, so here's what I want to say. I want to time out and say, if you're in this position and you have a partner and you're dating and they say, I never want to get married, be very careful. Very careful. Okay. So what they're going to say is, I don't believe in marriage. I don't want to get married, and or it's just not the right time for me. So what they'll say then is, but I love you. And that's what Johnny's saying. But I love you and you want to get married. So you want that narrative. So I'm going to go along with it. But now I'm saying I'll get married because you're perfect. Listen to that. What does that mean then when we hit a snag and things get tough? You're no longer perfect and now you yell at me or something. And now I'm out. Okay. Versus if I really wanted to be married for the sake of being married and I believed in marriage, I would work harder, you see. So it puts people really in a bind to say, I don't want to get married, but I'll marry you. And that's what I felt like was happening. Johnny's saying, I'm not ready. Okay. So strike number one was that moment where Victoria's asking for more and he's like, don't push me or I'll change my mind. Didn't like that. Strike two, Johnny says, there's other people out there, talk about temptation. I'm like, what? You're thinking about getting engaged and you're talking about temptation. To me, not a sign that someone really knows what commitment actually is. Strike 3, he tells Neil Lane, who I thought actually should have been the host. Jesse should have been having this conversation with Johnny, not Neil Lane. But anyway, he says he's struggling and he feels like he must marry her because that's what she wants. And Neil Lane, as an adult, says you don't have to marry her. But I'm like, oh God, don't do it. Don't do it. This is not good. And then let's talk about Victoria too, because she had her own hesitation. She even said, I had a checklist, but then there's love. Well, she's trying to talk herself into it too. She's not saying he hits everything on my checklist. She's saying I'm so in love with him. Who knows? Maybe the physicality is so great, the sex is great, that she's throwing her checklist away. But like you can even see her hesitation. They're both trying to talk themselves into it, and this is just not good. Okay, so bring us back to the reunion. Of course, Johnny comes out. He now is the injured person like Tyler, and we hear all about it from his perspective. And you gotta feel for Johnny. I do. I feel for Johnny because if he truly feels that Victoria has cheated on him, there's nothing worse. We can't defend that. Now, however, when Victoria comes out, right, we find out that Victoria was very clear. This isn't working for me. We dated for 3 weeks. We were together for 3 weeks. Not a lot of time, 6 weeks, and we are done. And I told you so. And then, of course, she leaks what he had said to her. We learn he has said a very horrible name to her, and that she says their relationship is toxic. Well, nobody wants to encourage somebody to stay in a toxic relationship, right? That's a whole different level of negativity, and that there was fighting. And I agree with her. If you're fighting at week 6, which should be the honeymoon phase, where do we go with that? So I don't know the level of readiness here. But for me, back to point 2, Victoria has a house. She is in medical sales. Johnny is a realtor. Is he there? Is he where she needs him to be? I don't think so. And she can't get him there, right? She can't make up for him not being there. And we know this because Johnny's own father said, I'm not sure if he's ready for this when Gabby came to visit. So that's the problem about, are they really a match? And so what happens is he agrees to get engaged. And my feeling is that Johnny sabotages this. He knows that he didn't really want to get engaged, but went along. And so now he sabotages things. He looks for problems. He looks for issues. This issue about you don't cook and clean, I don't know how big a deal that was. But if I don't feel good about myself, I haven't done my work. He's said that. I don't know why relationships fail. I feel horrible about myself. And then I feel forced into a relationship. Either we get engaged or we're done. Now I am going to look for an exit, any exit. And I just think this was bad. The timing of it all, we'll never know. Victoria is going to stick to her guns and say that was the narrative that worked for you, etc. I just thought that was a circular conversation. But I think these are just, again, 2 people that were not meant to be and shouldn't have gotten engaged. Now, let's talk about Greg Grapo. Okay, what do we know about Greg? Well, Greg is also friends with Andrew, and supposedly now Johnny has come out and said that Victoria had mentioned Greg while on the beach, and he was aware of them, and other people knew of this story. So I can see that he also feels a bit shamed by that, feels embarrassed that other people sort of knew this story but him, and maybe he didn't know how serious it was. Greg shows up really in support of Victoria. And to Victoria's point, it's been 5 months. Maybe it's 4 months technically. I don't know. But if I only knew you for 6 weeks, but now I have this new partner, okay, that may be significant. And are they a good fit? I don't know. There is a little bit something weird on the reunion, though. They both seemed really amped up. Greg and Victoria were like, screw everybody else. Is that because I'm at this phase of what I call omnipotence in a relationship where, you fall in love and you feel like nothing else matters? I get a parking ticket or I get a speeding ticket. Who cares? I'm in love, right? Is it that, or someone suggested they might have been on drugs. Like, it looked like they were sort of feeding off each other's energy. And I got the feeling like we're going into something really hard. I got to deal with Johnny. And then I want to hard launch you and our relationship because I'm happy, right? I'm excited and I want everybody else to be. But now we're showing off our chow tattoos, and everybody else's look on their face is like, oh my God, this is kind of cringe. And I'm just thinking, let's just let the dust settle. Everybody was Googling, what does chow actually mean? Hello and goodbye. It means both of those. But let's let the dust settle and see where these two people land. Do they have enough in common? Are they a good combination? Do they know how to calm each other down? That's really going to be the question, and only time will tell. So there you have it. Those are the tough breakups. But let's talk about some highlights, okay? What I loved was Jacob and Jill. Okay, was this the sweetest thing? Because Jill, I'm a mate for life, loved that. And Jacob looked right at her and said, we had something, and went for her. And I really loved that moment for the two of them. And by the way, Jacob had gotten a new couch. I don't know if you heard of that through Lyft. He's a Lyft driver, and they bought him a new couch because he sold his couch for some reason for cash. So how cute is that? They might be a good couple. Again, who knows? Number 2, Michael and Danielle. How do we really feel about these two? So I had the experience of just observing these two, and I think they needed to take it slow. Michael was putting on the brakes the whole time. I'm not ready. And we're going to get into that, because I think the biggest issue here is that Michael was emotionally ready for a relationship and maybe physically ready. He has a child. He's got that set up, but he said he wasn't ready to Sierra. And that was his biggest mistake. And I wished that in this moment that he could have apologized directly more to Sierra and said, I said I wasn't ready, but that's not technically true. We weren't a fit. Because it felt still like he was blaming Sierra a little bit, that, she came on too strong and he wasn't there. And I just felt like, let's just settle this and say we're not a fit for each other. And it got ugly, because Caitlin Bristow and Danielle were on a podcast together, and Caitlin said, what's her face, referring to Sierra, and people went kind of crazy with that. And they're two older women talking about this young woman. I feel like I want to protect Sierra, right? She came on my Instagram Live. You saw my video with her, and I really like her. She's a very confident person, but they didn't give her many minutes to even talk, and so she was like, and that felt hard. But if we really want to get beyond and get behind Michael and Danielle, then I felt like that apology would have helped. And okay, they say I love you for the first time. That's progress. Great. Good for them. Is Danielle giving too much? I don't know. And I've told you, my husband was a widower. I get it. It's very hard. But you have to go to where the child is. So Danielle has to move towards Michael. He's got a son, and that's going to work, and maybe he is further along and more established, and it's easier for her to move. But I like that they're taking it at their own pace. And let's face it, I love anybody who controls their own narrative. Let's get off this crazy show, and let's, you and I, double down, and let's do what works for us in the real life. So good for them. Okay, 3, Kira and Romeo. Who knew? I mean, I actually really like these two. They're both doctors. They're super smart. Went to Harvard. Who else was going to be a fit for either one of these? So loved that coupling, this whole idea that they kidnapped Romeo. I loved that they were, spoofing that, going with the memes on that. Thought that was funny. But I would love to see how these two land.
Let me go back to Serene and Brandon.
Then congrats to this happy couple. I just think they're adorable. I think they're low-key, no drama, but I think they're very similar. There's a way in which I find their energy very playful, shall we say. She's a teacher, he works in physical fitness. I think they, to me, just felt like really sweet. Clearly they love each other. They got engaged. Good for them. No, Jesse, we're not getting married. We want our families there. I totally get that. I thought that was like a weird thing to up, because Chris Harrison said he always wanted to, marry somebody on the spot. I'm like, okay, let that go. But I love these two, and we will see what happens to them. Hopefully there'll be a beautiful wedding. All right, reality check. What can we learn from all of this? Let me land the plane. 1, readiness. What can I say? If you're not ready, don't pretend to be, okay? Because the biggest thing, and you're going to blindside people if you think that you're ready, but you're not. If you're still pining over your ex, pine over the ex. Do your grief work, write in your journal, move beyond that to get ready for a relationship. But only you know whether you're ready or not. Look in the mirror, see what you can do. If you need therapy, work on that. Okay, 2, phase of life. Is this the right time for you? Because sometimes it's not, and you then have to put that out there. If you are at the phase where you are just living at home with your parents, no fault there. I got a lot of grief for that. If you're living at home with your parents, and some cultures, that's completely appropriate to do that, to never leave from your family, how are you going to integrate a partner? If your partner wants to have children, are you talking about that? But do you need to be at a different phase in your life? And if you're not there, then you got to really tell people that you're just interested in casual, because it's not fair, right? We saw so many mismatches. I don't like to call them cougars, but the women who were just at a different phase with much younger men. And I look at casting for this issue. I really do, because we have to get men who the women feel are equals, because that's what people want, right? You want an equal partner where you're both at the same phase. But that's a question for you. Do I need to be at a different phase in my life? And is my partner at the same phase? Very important question. And 3, goodness of fit. Reality check. Are we a fit? Is this my person? Do they know how to calm me down? Am I good for them? Do we listen to each other? Do we support each other in all the very most important ways? So that's what I want to bring this whole Bachelor in Paradise thing to a close. In my final analysis, readiness, phase of life, goodness of fit. I hope you found that helpful. Stay tuned for our next Bachelor. We saw the promo to that because I'm here for it. Let me know what was the most important lesson to you. And if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments for me. But thank you so much for this journey of love. And my final question, will you accept my final rose?